Bengals fans, something important is already unfolding before training camp has even officially kicked into full gear, and the latest developments could have a much bigger impact than many people expected. While everyone has been waiting for the veterans to report and for the first practices to begin, the Bengals have already started making roster moves involving several players. Some of the updates bring concern, others bring optimism, and together they paint an interesting picture of where this team stands as camp gets ready to begin. Before we dive into everything, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Training camp is finally here, which means news will be coming out almost every single day, and you won't want to miss any of the biggest Bengals updates throughout camp. Now, let's get to the real story. The biggest headline right now centers around veteran defensive tackle B.J. Hill. The Bengals have officially placed Hill on the active physically unable to perform list to begin training camp. Naturally, the first reaction from many fans was concern. Whenever you hear that an experienced veteran is opening camp on a list like this, questions immediately begin to surface. Is the injury serious? How long will he be out? Could this affect the defense once the regular season arrives? At this point, however, there is no reason to panic. What we do know is that B.J. Hill has been dealing with ankle and foot issues dating back to last training camp. Those problems followed him throughout last season, and despite everything he was dealing with physically, he continued to battle through it and remained available for Cincinnati in a significant number of games. That toughness didn't go unnoticed inside the organization. Defensive coordinator Al Golden previously spoke about Hill and acknowledged just how much the veteran had gone through. According to Golden, Hill missed portions of the offseason, missed most of training camp last year, fought through multiple physical issues during the season, and eventually underwent a procedure after the season ended in order to address those lingering problems. The hope now is simple. Get B.J. Hill completely healthy before asking him to take on another long NFL season. When you think about everything Hill dealt with over the past year, this latest move starts to make much more sense. Instead of rushing one of their experienced defensive linemen back onto the field immediately, the Bengals appear to be taking a patient approach. Rather than repeating the same situation from last year, where Hill had to fight through injuries week after week, the organization seems focused on making sure he can contribute over the long haul instead of forcing him into unnecessary early work. That's an important distinction. Sometimes fans see an injury designation and immediately assume the worst. But in this situation, there's another way to look at it. Training camp is about preparing for the entire season, not just winning the first practice of July. The information available right now also suggests that Hill could potentially be activated relatively quickly if everything progresses well. Whether that's after a few days, an extra week, or slightly longer remains unknown, but nothing at this stage suggests this is a reason for panic. Instead, it appears to be about caution and making sure an important veteran isn't forced back before he's fully ready. Of course, Bengals fans would much rather see B.J. Hill participating with the rest of the defensive line immediately. There's no question about that. But if the alternative is allowing him additional time now so he can stay healthier throughout the season, many would probably agree that's the smarter decision. The focus isn't simply getting Hill onto the practice field. The focus is having B.J. Hill available when the games truly begin to matter. While the B.J. Hill news generated understandable concern, there was another update that brought a much more positive feeling heading into camp. Fourth-round rookie Connor Lew appears ready to begin training camp without being placed on any injury designation. That might not sound like headline material at first glance, but considering what this rookie has been through, it's actually a significant development. Connor Lew suffered an ACL injury during his final college season, an injury that likely affected his draft position. Despite that setback, the Bengals clearly saw enough talent to invest a fourth-round selection in him. and there have been high expectations surrounding his long-term future ever since he arrived. Now, seeing him healthy enough to report without restrictions is encouraging. The organization reportedly views Lou as a potential center of the future, and that's exactly why this training camp matters so much. Nobody is expecting him to immediately become Cincinnati's starting center. There simply isn't that type of pressure on him, especially after recovering from a major knee injury. Instead, this training camp becomes an opportunity to continue building confidence, an opportunity to continue regaining strength, an opportunity to show the Bengals that his recovery is progressing exactly the way everyone hoped. And perhaps most importantly, an opportunity to remind everyone why the organization believed he was worth drafting despite the ACL injury. Because Lou spent so much time recovering, another player quietly found himself receiving valuable opportunities behind starting center Ted Karras. That player is Brian Parker. Parker has been filling in as the backup center while Lou recovered, and now training camp could create an interesting competition between the two young offensive linemen. What makes Parker especially valuable is his versatility. He isn't simply viewed as someone capable of playing center. He also has experience playing guard, giving the Bengals flexibility across multiple positions. Having players who can handle more than one role often becomes extremely important throughout an NFL season, especially when injuries begin to accumulate. As Lou returns to full health, the battle behind Ted Karras suddenly becomes one of the more intriguing position competitions to monitor throughout training camp. Will Connor Lew immediately reclaim that backup role? Will Brian Parker continue building on the work he already received during Lou's recovery? Those are questions that likely won't be answered immediately, but they're certainly worth watching over the coming weeks. In fact, this entire situation has created an interesting conversation about Cincinnati's offensive line depth. For a position group that has often generated debate, there suddenly appears to be legitimate competition at multiple spots. Ted Karras remains the projected starting center. Behind him, Connor Lew continues recovering and developing. Brian Parker offers valuable versatility across the interior offensive line. There are additional experienced options available as well, giving Cincinnati more flexibility than some fans may have expected entering camp. Of course, depth only matters if players continue progressing, and that's exactly why every preseason snap and every training camp practice will become so important over the next several weeks. Fans won't simply be watching whether these players participate. They'll be watching how they move, how comfortable they look, whether they appear fully recovered, whether they can consistently compete against NFL talent. Sometimes the eye test during training camp tells you just as much as the official injury reports. Unfortunately, the injury news wasn't finished there. Rookie tight end Josh Caddis has also been placed on the non-football injury list entering training camp. Unlike some other situations, very few details are currently available regarding this designation. What is clear is that this is far from the ideal way for an undrafted rookie to begin his first NFL training camp. Every practice matters for players trying to earn roster spots. Every rep becomes valuable. Every opportunity to impress coaches counts. Starting camp on an injury list immediately puts a player behind everyone else, competing for the same position. For Caddis, that's especially challenging because the competition at tight end is already significant. With several players already ahead of him in the battle for snaps, missing valuable practice time makes the climb even steeper. While this designation doesn't necessarily determine his future, it certainly doesn't make his path any easier. The good news is that, just like B.J. Hill, this situation could change quickly, depending on how soon he's cleared to return. It could be days. It could be longer. Right now, nobody knows. What everyone does know is that availability matters during training camp. particularly for players fighting to establish themselves on the roster. As the Bengals prepare for the first full practices, these three stories will likely remain among the biggest talking points. Can B.J. Hill return fully healthy after everything he battled through last season? Will Connor Lew continue proving that he's on track to become an important part of Cincinnati's future? And can Josh Caddis get back onto the field quickly enough to make his case during one of the most important periods of his young football career? Those questions don't have answers yet. But training camp is officially here, and the answers will start revealing themselves one practice at a time. Now, I want to hear from you. Which of these storylines are you watching the closest? Are you confident B.J. Hill will be back sooner rather than later? Do you believe Connor Lew could eventually become the Bengals' long-term answer at center? And which young player are you most excited to watch once training camp gets fully underway? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and let's talk Bengals. Who Day?